The state of Minas Gerais is the third most economically important state in Brazil after Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. And the state's capital, Belo Horizonte, is a linchpin for the country's service sector. Today, the state is embarking on a number of infrastructure investments through public-private partnerships. Joining me to discuss them are Dorothea Werneck, State Secretariat for Economic Development, and Marcos Siqueira, General Manager of the PPP programme of the state of Minas Gerais, winner of the World Finance Infrastructure Investment Award for Best PPP 2012. Welcome and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Dorothea, Minas Gerais is the most advanced state in Brazil in terms of PPP contracts. What's the business environment like?
Yes, we are now in a very good situation, and I have to remember that the state is too big. We are bigger than France, and we have 20 million inhabitants. So the challenge is very high. We have to do a lot of infrastructure in our state. And we start in 2003, before even the Brazilian regulation. So we are accumulating experience. And now we are not only working with a PPP model for economic infrastructure, but also for social infrastructure. And it's going quite well.
And in terms of the big picture behind these investments, what's the state's strategy?
We are working with a very comprehensive attitude, looking not only for specific sectors. We are open to investments in many different areas. And we are putting together a lot of information about our state, like education and infrastructure and so on, and be able to attract very important investments, not only for the new economy, which is very important for us, but also using the fact that we are very rich in minerals. So we have opportunities for those, for example, cement industry and the steel industry and so on, which are very strong in our state.
And how relevant are PPPs as an economic development strategy?
It's the fast and efficient way to put together many challenges we do have. We have learned to work with the private sector in very different areas. So I think that the private sector now also is very confident about what it can be done with the state.
Marcos, your first development was a highway, and you've since agreed a contract for a prison complex.
Yes, Nick, as Dorothea mentioned, Minas Gerais is very serious about a PPP policy, and we have used the mechanism to implement several types of infrastructures, coming from roads, as you mentioned, to prisons. Those two projects have pretty much changed the way the state thinks about infrastructure, because it showed us how we can look at quality of services instead of only infrastructure. Infrastructure as a part of service to be delivered with quality. So I think the PPP program in Minas has brought one very important thing to modernize infrastructure, which is we have learned to look at quality that can improve from private participation.
And probably the most complex project is the Mineiro Stadium ahead of the 2014 FIFA World Cup. What are the details there?
Well, Nick, that was a very complex project because it required about $400 million to bring it to World Cup standards. And what we did is to attract that money with the private sector in a PPP scheme in which the private operator could get to explore commercially the stadium afterwards. So it actually allowed us to save about $100 million compared to the alternative of public works directly. And that project also taught us that PPPs can be used to generate efficiency gains, which are very important to Minas Gerais.
Now, in the UK, we've had a somewhat checkered history with PPP projects. How have you managed the tension between the profits for the private sector and the public interest commitment?
Well, yeah, the British PFI scheme is in large use here for a couple of years now, and most of our experience is based upon the learnings of the British experience. So we have, coming from that checkered past, we were worried and preoccupied to create the conditions within which the incentives align what I'm trying to say is, I think the best way to balance the profit with the long-term commitment is to create mechanisms to align incentives in which the performance determines the return of the private capital invested. So the public gains better services and the private gets return from their investments, and we all look at a better infrastructure.
Since the unit was created, you've had $2 billion of investment. What's the next step?
Well, we are looking at another $5 billion of investment for the next couple of years. And we're looking at different sectors from the ones we've used. I've already mentioned the solid waste project, which will be out in the market in the next 30 days. But we're also looking at a lot of economic infrastructure. I think two relevant projects. One of them is our subway, our underground train in Belo Horizonte, which itself will attract about $1 billion of capital investment. And we're also looking at a whole new age of road concessions in the state that will come out soon. So in a way, what we are looking at the future, the past has taught us it can be used to modernize infrastructure. And the state of Minas Gerais is firm on its idea to use it even further in the future.
So a concentrated plan for the next 5-10 years?
Yes, and it's important to remark that when we talk about private, we talk about Brazilian and international. And we're very welcome for investments in those projects. It's a huge amount of money. And I think that in this process, we are putting the new challenges with this partnership of private, international for investment and the private equity and so on will be very, very welcome.
Dorothea Werneck, Marcos Siqueira, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nick.